Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Chewing the Fat with myself, and as usual, the amazing Dean.
Amazing.
I
Yes.
was searching for a word there. I was like, I'm not going to use the normal words I use.
Like prick, jerk, asshole.
Yeah, stuff
That
like
guy.
that guy. Yeah. All right. This week we're going to be looking at a couple of things. We're going to look at can you be thin and still fat? Because we've all got those people, and I know some older people that have been thin their whole lives, and then at 60 years old have a quadruple bypass and turn out not so healthy, although they've looked fine their whole life. And also how surgery or illnesses or things or injuries and things like that affect, if it does, affects weight loss and things like that. So why don't we start with, can you be skinny and fat? Is that possible?
Like fat as in PHAT? Like you're just freaking awesome?
Just, down with the homies. Or Wu-Tang and stuff.
Down with the homies. Oh my God. My whole life I always felt like I was a little bit too school for cool.
Not to mention dyslexic.
My daughter asked me one time, she said, "Did you ever get an F at school, Dad? Did you ever fail?" I had to think, and yes, I did. In high school, I failed a subject deliberately just to fit in so I could be like the other boys because they all seemed to fail.
Yeah, that's what I'm running with now. That's why I failed on my subjects.
And it was English too.
Of course it was.
Oh my God.
That's what I'm running with. That's what I'm running with now.
I finally kicked that story to the curb when I partied with the Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
At the Wu-Tang drinking healthy wine.
Yeah, I was going to say, you still sat there talking science like a nerd.
I did. I was there with you, God. I remember I said, listen, I know you guys are in your late 40s now and you're probably not so gangster and you're more worried about heart disease and your achy joints. You should drink this healthy wine. Let me tell you about it. Like this. And he was cool. He was looking at the wine and he's like, respect.
But did he use the word fat? Did he taste it and go, wow, that's fat?
No.
Yeah, see?
No, I didn't poke any of them in the stomach and say, hey, what are you doing about that? So what are we talking? The skinny fat phenomenon.
Skinny fat. Can we be skinny and fat?
Look, yeah, but I think people need to get out of the whole dichotomy of skinny fat, and people need to reframe their thinking and their view, which obviously then alters their actions to one of health and vitality, not just skinny or fat. So, doctors are putting skinny people on blood pressure medications, anti-diabetic medications, cholesterol lowering medications all the time. So skinny doesn't equal healthy. And you can have, depending on where the fat is deposited, you can have people that at face value, they look like they're a healthy weight and body shape, etc. But if you even just get them on a bioimpedance scale that can assess their visceral fat score, and these scales are readily available. I like the Tanita brand. They seem to be pretty robust and relatively accurate for home scales. But if you're in a relatively sort of healthy looking shape, but then you get on those scales and it says your visceral fat is above 12, then you're at risk of fatty liver disease. So you got too much fat surrounding your internal organs, and it's dangerous, in particular if it's laden in your liver. So it puts you at risk, obviously, of, like I said, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which these days is the leading cause of liver transplants, organ transplants. So that's overtaken, certain viral infections and also alcohol-induced cirrhosis for the cause of transplants.
So how does it work? How can people put on weight or be fat around, around their organs and all that sort of stuff, but not put on fat traditionally like larger people?
Well, they do. It's like I said, there's the appearance of, they're a healthy body weight, but not really. I mean, you noticed it. You were losing weight and you weren't even at your healthy weight range yet. And everyone around you was like, Trevor, you're too skinny already. Don't lose any more weight.
Yeah.
And that's because our view of what healthy looks like these days is so skewed.
Yeah.
It's so skewed. It's kind of like, I don't know, for many reasons, but what's healthy, what's actually going to enable people to be well throughout almost the majority, like the vast majority of their lifespan. If you're going to live that in a healthy sort of state of being, then, you can't be overweight. And overweight, like if you've got a BMI 26, 27, 28, at least I'm not obese. And I'll be able to correct it. Like we used to be able to in our early 20s or something. We could just drop that weight fast.
Correct what? I used to come home and eat 2 pizzas at bloody 1 o'clock in the morning before I went to bed. I didn't have to correct anything.
Well, there you go. But then when you're in your from mid 40s, especially onwards, then it's never going to happen. You're not going to do it. And then every freaking January, those promises that people make to themselves, January 1, and then it's January 26, and you're like, oh, let me just get through this Australia Day, whatever. And then it's February, March, April, May. Oh, screw this year, next year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, is there a skinny fat? Yeah, you can be unhealthy at what might be considered a sort of what looks like you're okay. But like I said, doctors are putting people on these medications all the time. So rather than skinny versus fat, go to your doctor, get the blood work done, like get some reality around what you're dealing with. And it can be confronting. A lot of people put that off because they're afraid of finding out. But it's there to be dealt with anyway. It's like human beings have this extraordinarily phenomenal capacity to tolerate states of unworkability. I'm sure a lot of people who listen to this, they have some aches and pains that they've been tolerating and putting up with for years. And it slowly gets worse and worse. And we just resign ourselves. Well, this is just part of getting older, I guess. And it just really doesn't have to be that way. I'm always surprised, like when we just alter people's nutrition, it's a nutritional intervention. I had some people yesterday who wanted to find out about what I do, and they had some questions, and they were like, yeah, we want to see if this is right for us. And I said, I can tell you right now, this is not right for you. This is not, this is such an uncomfortable, inconvenient interruption to the way in which you're used to doing life. But you've got to alter that, and you've got to alter your behavior, and it takes a whole new way of seeing things and a whole new way of thinking. And this is like, for some people, it's like you just do what I say and it all works out. And that's really how it works anyway, but you got to deal with yourself. So I just said to them, this is a bad idea. Anyway, it didn't take long before they said, that all makes sense. When do we start? How do we get started? Yeah. So, there's the skewed view of what we have as normal.
Well, it's all based around big and small, isn't it? Like you look at anyone and you'll think they're healthy just by their size, or they're unhealthy just by their size. It's just the way, and especially if you're, let's alter that a little bit as well. Let's go off tangent from the flip side of that as well. there's people that are just look like the epitome of just being an utter fitness machine, ripped, train non-stop, and their lives are taken up by maintaining that appearance. Can you go too far that side as well, as far as health and vitality go?
Sure, but there's so many facets to being human and what life is about. And if you're driven, if you're driven to maintain a body fat percentage at a certain number, and you got to look a particular way, and you spend more time in front of the mirror than you do with other things that could be more productive and useful to your life and your family and the community, etc., then sure, there's some psychological issues there. I'll tell you, I've had some dieters, because really, when I put people on a particular nutritional intervention to correct their metabolic dysfunction, I don't want them exercising in the early weeks. Like for the first 4 to 6 weeks, literally sit on the couch. I turn your body into a fat burning machine. You just be sitting there watching, Netflix or something, and your body's just churning through this fat. And it's been a bit disconcerting for a couple of people along the way, where they have to exercise. If you have to exercise, and I recommend people do some kind of movement to keep it in their routine, but certainly you don't want to push it. It's great for mental health and etc. So, but some people are so addicted to that, and they're so it's like the endorphins that get released during exercise masks some other imbalance and instability and psychological issues that haven't yet been dealt with.
Right.
So
and then what are the ramifications of that? Like what comes from the overtraining type stuff?
Burnout. It's like people who overwork. You just you're continually stressing your body, and everyone in the world of performance, in the conversational domain of athleticism, everyone's so dogged about performance, and very little attention goes to recovery. So people don't, manage their nutrition with the degree of discipline that they might with their exercising. And when I say nutrition, I don't just mean, your post exercise, fuel, what protein and timing and what supplements, but I'm talking also about what not to eat. And a lot of the time it takes more discipline to not do something, like not eat certain foods, than it does to wake up at 5 o'clock every morning and go do a workout.
Or eat enough food too, yeah? If you're doing that if you're in training with that sort of intensity and that frequency, being able to get enough nutrients into you.
Yeah. So I think that the key is, if people just kind of got out of that skinny fat dichotomy and started being more concerned for health and vitality, and then living, it's not empowering nor can you create a not something. So it's not empowering to live your life always concerned of being fat. I don't want to get fat. I don't want to get fat. So then your actions are always geared around not being something, versus, okay, what does in reality healthy look like? What's vitality look like? And I don't just mean in terms of physical appearance. I mean in the day-to-day living of your life, in terms of your performance, what you eat, what you don't eat, how you move, when you move, what activities. Is there sort of functional activities incorporated in the day-to-day life? What are you up to? Are you social, spiritually, all this kind of stuff? It all makes for a balanced human being. Otherwise, you're skewed too far on one element and obsessive with that. Why? So you can be a really great looking corpse in the coffin at your funeral for people to look in and go, wow, he must have worked out. The point of that.
Hey, that just triggered something else for me as well when we were talking about the nutrition side of the people that train a lot and all that sort of thing. We had a conversation earlier about, which I think could be beneficial for anyone that's listening, about the different types of proteins and the whey protein isolate and casein protein and all that sort of thing. What are the differences in those proteins? And is all the hype true too about this releases slowly and the collagen protein's the latest fad now, and that helps make up your connective tissue, so that's good for that. So you need collagen protein and all that sort of thing. What's the deal with all those proteins?
Oh, look, there's obviously some scientific validity to some of those claims. I think they get overly exaggerated.
Right.
So for example, the collagen, that's everything. Everyone's like big on collagen these days, and everything from bone broth to, I don't know, collagen in certain supplements and collagen capsules and all this sort of stuff, right? Your body's, it's an abundant protein. It's the most abundant protein in your body, but your body manufactures it. It builds it from the constituent amino acids that you consume from various protein sources.
Right.
And you need an adequate supply of all of the necessary amino acids, the essential and non-essential amino acids. These are the building blocks of proteins. So, the 20 odd amino acids, if you look at collagen's very heavy in 3 specific amino acids, and it's missing 1. So it's not a complete protein. Right. So if you're relying on collagen to be your primary source of protein, then you're doing it yourself a disservice, really. Look, you give your body enough, your fibroblasts enough of the constituent amino acids, they'll make the collagen that your body needs. Right. So overhyped. And then casein, there's the argument that casein is, slower releasing, and, it's absorbed over a longer period of time and all this sort of stuff. Against what? Against whey protein? Show me a head-to-head. They don't exist. So, and if it does, it's clinically irrelevant. Right? It's just, there may be some data showing that it's absorbed at this rate and it's beneficial post-exercise, but compared to what? To no protein, to whatever. So that too isn't really that clinically relevant. Casein is also inflammatory as well. So, if you want to get healthy, you want to remove the elements in your diet that are causing too much inflammation. So you don't want to overdo casein, right? So that's inflammatory. If you want to slow down the absorption of protein, eat your freaking vegetables with your protein, right? You just need that, have some fiber in there.
Ask how your stomach knows that it's, and your digestive system knows that it's casein protein, so it holds it longer to absorb.
No, just all this stuff.
That's what it's
about. It's like, a lot of the claims in the early days. Remember probiotics? They used to say, you the public was left thinking that you can repopulate your gut microflora, and reconstitute it by taking a probiotic. It's just not true. It's a complete fallacy. It just doesn't happen that way.
But you can, the ones you've got to keep in the fridge.
Sorry?
The ones you've got to keep in the fridge, surely they would work.
No, and you need them they've got to get into your gut in like trillions of cells to have some real clinical benefits. And you want to pick the right strains and make sure that they can get into the gut at those numbers. And, there aren't those kind of products available. So it's a little bit overhyped, and people talk about bacterial diversity, but that's a different story. But absorption is like, you're better off having sort of, 18 to 20 grams of protein per serve. You don't need these like 35 grams and 45 grams of protein per serve that I see in some of these bars. You just don't need that. So it's a waste. You know, you're better off having like 4 meals a day, having a consistent supply of protein throughout the day in those 4 meals. That's adequate.
Yeah.
You don't want to go overboard and have a hyper proteinaceous diet. You just want an adequate amount of protein. And then what'd you say? Whey protein. So again, you want to minimize inflammation. So whey protein isolates are preferred. In my view, whey protein's great. Like, it's just the best. It really easily absorbable. You get whey protein isolates versus whey protein concentrate. So the concentrate's not as refined. It's like still got some of the inflammatory components. It might have a bit more fat and sugar in there, like the lactose from the milk. But it mixes better. It's cheaper and it mixes better. So the end product, when you make a shake, for example, it's creamier and more palatable. And the whey protein isolates, it's a better source of protein and it's cleaner and less inflammatory. But when you mix it in water, it tastes like water, dishwater. So, and a lot of companies, they just don't invest in getting the flavor and the texture and the consistency right, and that takes something. But if you're going to use these kinds of products to correct a health disorder or a metabolic dysfunction, who cares? Like, just for a temporary period of time, do what it takes to get well, and then wean yourself off those products back to more whole foods and things like that. Pea protein is great as well. You got to make sure you get an adequate supply of that. The amino acid composition isn't as good as whey protein, but it's still an excellent source of protein.
Right.
I have a number of vegan clients who do excellent taking these types of products. I'm yet to find a vegan protein shake that is palatable for me, though, because pea protein just doesn't mix well. It doesn't mix well. It's like drinking dirty water. It's always gritty.
They are gritty for the most part. So some of them are more gritty than others, but
yeah. Soy protein is also great, but for various reasons over the years, soy has developed somewhat of a negative aura around it. So people avoid that. But if it's soy protein isolates, so you've isolated the protein away from the potential threat of these phytoestrogens and genistein and all that sort of stuff. So, which, by the way, in my view, it's unfounded anyway. But I think soy protein is an excellent source of protein. I think it'd be great if you could get products that combine the various sources of protein depending on the needs of the person. So you can pick and choose various products that really match that person. Some people can't consume too much whey protein. It just doesn't sit right in their guts.
I think when you tried the casein protein, you could feel the difference with that, couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit inflammatory, get bloated.
Cool.
So, yeah.
All right.
That's protein.
Sorry?
That's protein.
That's protein 101. So there you go. I mean, they're always looking for new ways to sell stuff, aren't they? So, in a year's time, collagen will be on the back burner and there'll be some other new fandangled version of protein. It'll be hemp, no doubt. And I mean, that's already starting to come out now. There's a lot of hemp protein products, or at least part of especially the vegan ones. I've seen them in a few of the vegan proteins. They've got hemp protein.
And it's context specific. So the context is always decisive. It depends what your needs are. Someone who's trying to rebalance their hormones and reduce fat, they're going to eat different and have different protein requirements compared to someone who's, I don't know, an athlete, and they've got a very conditioned body, and they're more committed to recovery and repair from the damage done from the exercise, particularly the soft tissue. But they all have their place. Collagen, I like hydrolyzed collagen because you can make better sort of fruity flavored drinks with them, right? Which are more, I'm seeing them more and more in the market now, which are great. If you're on if you on some kind of weight loss program, for example, over a period of time, you got to keep it varied and interesting. You know, you can't just be having chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, whatever, right? It's like ice cream, you know. Some people just eat the same. I don't know, man. You want to try some different flavors, and it's like, but not just different flavored creamy ice creams. It's like, wow, what about the sort of non-creamy dessert stuff? You know, it's a bit fresher, and the lemon, what do you call them, gelatos and all that sort of stuff. So hydrolyzed collagen is good in that sense, just to add some variety and keep fresh in the palate a little bit.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. But
right.
I wouldn't rely on it as the sole source of protein.
Good to know. All right. Lastly, had a question fired through this week about whether injuries or surgeries or, you know, things like that, where your body's, you know, trying to recover or heal itself and all that sort of thing. Is that in any way related to, or does it affect being able to lose weight during that process? I think the actual question was, does my body need to spend all its energy healing and repairing versus trying to lose weight?
No, that's a weird question.
I thought so, but it was asked, so I'm asking.
So hang on, I'm just trying to get clear on the question. So if you're injured, you're asking, does that impact the potential to lose weight?
Yeah, so your body, should your body be concentrating on and working towards recovering from that injury versus losing weight? I know it's a weird correlation.
Yeah,
It may have been in the context of not being able to lose weight because your body's trying to hold on to it to help repair yourself.
No, people will hold on to injuries and states of pain and disability so they don't have to handle their health. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
People, human beings are inauthentic, dirty rats, just lazy and, you know, complete liars, and always, and it's not like
you know me too well.
Pointing the finger at anyone. It's just human beings. It's biology. It's nature. It's like you're always going to go down the path of least resistance just to survive the next moment. And if you don't have to do something to survive the next moment, it's highly unlikely that you'll do it.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, if you injure yourself, then and you don't move, and then you're sitting around, and if you're in pain, and to kind of be kind to yourself, you'll eat foods that comfort you and make you feel nurtured and supported and loved, and like pizza and deep fried potato and all this sort of stuff, and milkshakes and ice cream and sweets. So yeah, injuries can cause people to gain weight. And, you know, when people come and see me and I ask them, you know, when did you start putting the weight on? They're like, or why did you put the weight on? It's like, oh, I injured myself and I put the weight on because I'm not exercising anymore. So they equate their weight gain to the lack of exercise and movement, which they can't do because of the injury. No, you gain the weight because you started eating more. It's not to do with the exercise or that lack of movement or anything like that. So yeah, injuries can then cause weight gain in that sense. Now, if you're in pain and you gain weight, then, you know, your motivation levels go down and the injuries persist. So the best thing you can do to help heal your body is to lose that excess weight.
It's purely from a personal standpoint. And what I noticed when I was losing the weight was everything was working better. There was less pain in areas I had pain in before. It was easier to do things. It was, and, you know, I spoke before about putting that 20 kilo vest on after losing that weight and the massive difference that was, and how I was just carrying in that. I mean, no wonder I was sore. And, you know, what you were speaking to about being dirty rats and all that sort of thing, I was the same thing. You know, I backed off the training I was doing because I wasn't overtraining would injure me. And no wonder, because I was 20 kilos overweight.
Yeah.
So, and that was I'm just going to back it off. So I lessen the injuries that I get from training. But then since going through and again, yeah, the first 2 months of what I did was all in the major part of the COVID lockdown. So I literally did sit on my backside for 2 months doing nothing, losing 20 kilos.
And got well. And your body started, the natural healing processes of your body can actually work more efficiently in the absence of that fat and the inflammation that goes along with that fat causes. So if you've got too much adipose tissue, particularly in your midsection and in that visceral fat that we were talking about earlier, that increases what we call low-grade chronic inflammation.
Right.
And if you've got this low-grade chronic inflammation in your body, it makes it difficult for your tissues and your cells to repair normal function. So you want to reduce that so your body's natural healing processes can do their job and you can get well. I mean, using it, whatever people say, I don't know, people say all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff that is not at all based in reality, you know, just to not have to be responsible. It's like, listen, if you're not well, if you've got an injury, if you're in pain, if you're disabled, you got to lose the fat. Yeah. And it's as simple as managing your performance, action or inactions, with regards to what goes past your lips. You know, if you can't do it on your own, engage a coach. Sorry?
Same with alcohol, yes. It hinders the recovery process.
Yeah. Hey, I heard something. So a buddy of mine, Jonathan Alleman, who runs ProGood, you talked about probiotics earlier. So that is the only probiotic that I recommend, that I use myself every day. And his dad's a microbiologist who I'm friends with, and he's, you know, one of my scientific advisors. Anyway, chatting to Jonathan, and he was talking about some recent research from, gosh, I can't remember the name of the university now, but they were looking at alterations in the gut microbiome and how that influences alcoholism.
Right.
Right. And it's like, when you if you do a fecal microbiota transplantation, so basically you create a crapsule, you take shit from a healthy person, you put it in a capsule and stick it up somebody else's backside. And that you can repopulate someone's gut microflora. Anyway, you change the constitution of their gut microbiome. These individuals just didn't want to drink anymore.
Yeah, right.
And it got me thinking about, like, that earlier interview you did with James, and you guys were talking about, and even he transitioned into phase 4 of the Simpler Health Protocol, and he was worried about, am I going to turn back to drinking excessively again? And it's going to ruin my life. And his first night out on the alcohol, he had 4 drinks. He took a photo of each drink and sent it to me. Bless him. Right. And I said to him, okay, you better slow down now, buddy, because it's going to hurt tomorrow morning, which it did. But he just doesn't look at alcohol the same way anymore. And, you know, same with you. That first night where you were allowed to have a drink, when we transitioned you, we had 2 shots and you were done. That was it. It's like, no, I don't want to have any more. So that's fascinating. And you know, famous gastroenterologist here in Sydney that I've done some, you know, I've had some important conversations with. He reckons that this metabolic reprogramming really alters the gut microbiome. You know,
it would have to, yeah. You couldn't.
It does. Well, I mean, I can't say for sure, because we've got to do, you know, like you said to me, Dean, let's get into shit together. Let's measure before and after poo samples and all that sort of stuff. So
I'm chewing the fat. We've got all the good stuff.
Chew the fat and get into shit together.
Chew the fat and get your shit together.
This is biology, right? This is the reality. We're not about, I don't know, good intentions and well-meaning thoughts and niceties and appeasing people. No, this is the reality. It's like,
That's
you know,
right.
there's fat and there's shit and there's disease and there's pain and there's health and there's vitality and there's performance. So, you know, that's what we deal with.
Yeah.
I don't know what everybody else deals with.
Cool. All right. We might leave it there, eh? I hope everyone got something out of that. There's the protein 101 and whether
Skinny,
you
fat,
skinny.
what else?
Skinny, fat, and whether your body's, you know, won't lose weight because it's prioritizing fixing your injuries first.
No.
Over losing weight.
Lose the weight.
I mean, that makes perfect sense to me now we're talking about it. Everything just works better with the weight loss, including recovery. So
your healing cells just, you know, regeneration doesn't happen effectively in a background context of inflammation. So you've got to reduce that low grade chronic inflammation so your cells can do their job in healing. And then bugs and booze. Hey, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Bugs and booze.
The booze, yeah.
Oh, and just an insight into an upcoming episode. Dr. Kristen Willamere has agreed to come on an episode of Chewing the Fat.
We've got a lot of good people coming up soon.
I know, there's a whole, my faculty is huge. They're the best of the best. But Kristen's awesome. And so we'll call a series, we'll do a series of, you know, interviews with her, and she can share all her expertise in brain health and how to biohack your brain. And she's got a book coming out at the end of the year. So that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
And I told her we're going to call it The Beauty of Brains with Dr. K.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to have to do up
an
intro and trailer.
you got to write some more music.
Write a new theme song. Cool. Thanks, guys. See you next week.
All right. Bye.